Let's see what he's saying. Starting up. Starting up. Starting up. Okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of my trash reviews. I'm sorry about all of the technical difficulty. I don't know what's really going on with this, but I'm just gonna see how it's going so far. You know what I'm saying? Just gonna see how it's going so far. If it's still having technical difficulties, I might just do a private review and shit like that. If I just do this shit pre-recorded, but the album it's saying it's okay right now, so I'm just gonna bear with it. But album I'm about to review today is the Lady of Rage's solo album, and today her only album, which is the Necessary Roughness album, released in 1997. This was the last album that was released in Death Row Records and distributed in Interscope Records and whatnot. Singles albums known for are, I only came out with like, I want to say one or two singles. I know Get With The Wickedness, Flow Like That. I know that was a single to begin with. I know that was a single. And what was the other single? Show Shot, but Show Shot was actually it was on the Gridlock soundtrack as well too. So yeah, just to let everybody know about it. Just to let everybody know about that. And yeah, man, Lady of Rage, man. One, not only just in my opinion, one of the most slept on female MCs, but in my opinion, one of the most lyrical rappers and shit like that. Like, people talk about Corrupt, people talk about Snoop when it comes to like lyricists and Death Row Records and shit, but you gotta put Rage up there too. You gotta put Rage up there. But yeah, man, she was from Farmville, Virginia and shit like that. She was inspired by like MCs such as Roxanne Shante, Salt and Pepper, Rakim and shit like that. And so fast forward to like fast forward to 1988, she had met this cat named Black Russian from this group called the Original Outlaw Brothers, and it was like some rap group from Queens. And you know, he convinced her to get a record deal and whatnot and be part of the group and shit. So they made a part of the group, and then they signed like a production deal for LA Posse. And if you guys know the name's LA Posse, I've mentioned it a couple times before and stuff like that. What's up, Christian? I saw your comment, Christian, and stuff like that. I definitely have to talk about you on that. If you guys know my reviews on LL Cool J, they were working with him in I want to say the Bigger and Deffer album and stuff like. I want to say the Bigger and Deffer album, and also the Bigger and Deffer, yeah. And so she was shopping around labels and stuff like that, and she definitely, I want to say she definitely got like a lot of flavor when she met Chubb Rock, and she did vocals on his track Bring 'Em Home Safe from the album The One, which I want to say that album also had songs like Treat 'Em Right, which definitely one of my favorite hip hop songs of all time. Treat 'Em Right, man. If that song like comes on like at a fucking party and shit, like dance floors would definitely be packed and shit. But yeah. So then next thing you know it, she got into the ear, she got into the ear of, Dr. Dre and shit like that. And so Dre, of course signed her to Death Row Records and shit. And her first breakthrough was on the Chronic, of course, the Chronic. And she appeared on several tracks on the Chronic, such as let me pull up a track list. She appeared on High Power, Lyrical Gangbang, and shit like that. Yeah, man. Stranded on Death Row, one of my favorite songs from that album. Then, she made big noise when she was on Doggy Style and shit like that with songs for all my niggas and bitch, for all my niggas and bitches and shit. But she and Corrupt went in on that track for all my niggas and bitches. Yeah, and she was also on the G-Funk intro too. So, but then 1994, that was the year when Afro Puffs, pretty much her signature song, came out and shit like that, because Afro Puffs was like really supposed to have been the lead single to what would have been, the shelved Eargasm album from what I looked up, because Afro Puffs was on the Above the Rim soundtrack. Me personally, I prefer like the video version, me personally. So yeah, Eargasm was like continuously pushed back, and while it was pushed back, she definitely did appear on soundtrack placements and shit. She appeared on the Dog Pound album, Dog for the song "Do What I Feel" and shit like that. Also, around that time too. Around that time, she was getting ready to get into acting. Around the time this album was coming out too. So then 1996 happened, and Tupac signed to Death Row Records. Tupac signed to Death Row Records and shit like that. And all eyes on him. No pun intended. No pun intended, all eyes on him and shit like that. And so once Pac was there and shit like that, it just became all out Tupac this, Tupac that. Then of course Eargasm got pushed back some more. And shit. So yeah, man. And y'all would hear the stories about how Tupac wanted Lady of Rage to do more when it came to like the beef, with like the East Coast, well, primarily Bad Boy Records, but Lady of Rage, she didn't want to like fall into that vibe and shit like that. So yeah, that's where all that shit happened. And so Pac died like late '96, and that's when Dre of course had already been left death row. Suge was in jail. Y'all know the whole story with this. So 1997, I think they scrapped Eargasm, and then that's when this album came about. Necessary Roughness. Oh, and also Snoop left around that time. Of course, y'all know Snoop left around that time too. So yeah, this is the album cover right here. Very dope and shit like that. Her rocking puffs and shit. Very dope. I always thought she was kind of fine though. I don't know if it was just me. Yeah. Yeah, man. I was low key surprised when I found this in stores, because, like I said before, I'm not like the biggest fan of this album, but I mostly got this, just complete my Death Row collection and shit like that. But yeah, man, like this album should have been way bigger than what it was and shit. But and I know there's like some people who actually like this album as well too, but y'all came here to listen to my opinion. And yeah, man. So with that being said, producers of the album include Suge Knight was an executive producer, Daz Dillinger, Superfly, DJ Premier. I'm just gonna be blunt. As much as I love Primo, I really was not a fan of his beats on this album, on some real shit. But yeah, Easy Mo B, he was also on this album as well too. Kenny Parker from Break Down Productions fame. Lady of Rage also did some production. Reg Flair, Sean Barney, and Thomas. And guest appearances include Machiavelli. Of course, you guys should know that's the moniker that Tupac went by. The moniker that Tupac went by and shit like that. For the Don's Illuminati album and shit. Kevin Vanato, Daz Dillinger, Snoop Doggy Dogg, Mad One. Oh yeah. And also, one more thing before I get into the songs. There was also supposed to have been a song off this album called The Setup, which was supposed to have featured Heather B and Nikki D, from what I looked up. And that song was actually supposed to, from what I looked up, it was a diss track. It was a diss track to Foxy Brown, because around that time Foxy Brown was getting hated on a lot of times. A lot of people were going after her, Lil Kim, Queen Latifah, Nikki D herself, because she made some comments and shit about Lady of Rage and Heather B. So that was originally supposed to have been on this album, but I guess politics, didn't want this on the album and shit. And if y'all want like a dope Foxy Brown and shit like that around that time, check out Queen Latifah's Name Calling Part 1. That was on the Set It Off soundtrack, which I need to get my hands on the soundtrack. I got the movie. I did a review on the movie years ago, but I definitely need my hands on that soundtrack though, because that soundtrack got some heat. But yeah, and ironically, Dre was on the movie Set It Off too. So, alright, so 14 tracks. Let's get this shit started, because I've been beating around the bush a bit too much. Alright, track number 1 is the intro track, which it's called Riot. It's like a Riot intro, where it sounds like it breaking out like a prison or some shit, and there's like this news reporter talking about who is this Lady of Rage and shit like that. And you have like people, I want to say like Daz was being one of the prisoners and shit like that, and he was saying some shit like, oh man, we've been waiting for this Rage album for years, man, we want that Rage and shit, So yeah, man, that's basically what I got from the Riot intro. Pretty dope intro and shit. Track number 2, Necessary Roughness. This one is an Easy Moby production all the way around and shit. And you can pretty much tell just by like the bass line, the drums, just the way that it's mixed. Love this fucking track right here. With Easy Mo B, man, he's definitely one of those producers that East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, like he definitely had a beat. He definitely, whenever he works with a fucking rapper and shit, he definitely, fits him and shit. He definitely has the right chemistry and stuff. Not even with rappers and shit. The stuff that he did with Miles Davis and stuff, from Miles to Big Daddy Kane to Biggie, Pac, Craig Mack, and so on and shit like that. Speaking of Craig Mack, though, I felt like this beat pretty much had like a very Craig Mack feel to it, like something that could have definitely have been on the Project Funk the World album, an album I do need in my collection. I know as a hip hop head, I don't have that album, but the album is always gonna be there and shit like that. So it's always one of those albums that I can always get though, But rest in peace to Craig Mack with his recent death. I've seen the album kind of rose in price a little bit too, so yeah, that's why I gotta get the album whenever I can and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? So that's Necessary Roughness. Track number 3, Big Bag Lady. That song features Machiavelli and Kevin Venato. Just to let everybody know, Tupac is actually just doing ad-libs and background vocals, mostly on the chorus and shit like that too, but he still definitely did his thing on that, you know what I'm saying? He still definitely did his thing on that. Big Bag Ladies, believe it or not, is one of my favorite tracks off this album. Daz definitely was on the beat and shit. She had this one line I like when she said, check the gamma rays from the She-Hulk stomping through your territory. New rap female category winner, and your style get played out like the Spinners. The song games people played by the Spinners. I felt that was a dope double entendre and shit. And that's the thing though, despite some of the criticism I have with this album, lyrically the album is dope. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, man, Daz definitely did his thing on this fucking track, man, with the beat and shit. Yeah, man, rest in peace to Tupac, man. Next track, Show Shot. This was the one that was on the Gridlock soundtrack. Yeah, this song was okay. It wasn't really one of my favorites off this album, but it was okay and shit like that. This was produced by Sean Bonnie Thomas and shit. So, yeah, man, this was an okay track. Track number 5, No Shorts. Yeah, again, another song I felt like was okay, but could have been a little bit better and shit like that. I wasn't really feeling the beat by Daz on this one, but lyrically, I feel like Ray definitely did a thing. I like the line when she says, You could cross your heart and still couldn't detain this full figure. It takes more than girdles to hold back my fatness. You got more hurdles to jump, so go get back practice. You must have forgotten I could give it to you good. I can give it to you like God gave his only begotten son. Shit. Yeah, very dope track right there. Track number 6, Get With the Wickedest Flow Like That remix. Yeah, just to let you know, I wasn't really a fan of the remix or the original version and shit like that. And that's most just to do with the beats on the album and shit. I felt like the beat had more like, it definitely had like a boom bap East Coast feel to it and shit like that, which I usually don't have a problem with, but I just really don't feel like it vibed that well with Lady of Rage and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's my only opinion, and that's like my biggest complaint about this album, which I will talk about more in a minute and shit. You know. Next track we got is Raw Deal, which a song I didn't really care for, to be real. I just didn't really care for the singing, to be real and shit. Track number 8, Breakdown. Yeah, that was a dope track. That was another dope track right there and shit too. You know, she definitely went in on that track. Track number 9, Rough, Rugged, and Raw, featuring Dash Dillinger and Snoop Doggy Dogg. That's my favorite track off this album, believe it or not. Yeah, man, it definitely has a very vintage Death Row feel to it and whatnot. Definitely has that vintage feel to it. I love how Snoop and Rage was just going back and forth, rhyming and shit like that. Yeah, man, definitely had no issues with this song whatsoever. You know, definitely a dope song. She had this one line when she said, hold on, let me pull it down. Give me a second. Follow no fads. The Lady of Rage is bad. Bad down to the marrow. Keep your eyes on the sparrow. Purr, rough, rugged and hardcore. Robbers on the sword. The deadliest to take flight. The bomb rhyme condor. Rhyme concierge in my castle. You don't want no hassle. You don't want a battle. Skedaddle be on your merry way. Cause what? Cause on this very day you're going down like Mary J. Like, I like the way she flowed on that. Yeah, man, definitely had that very vintage Death Row feel to it. Love this shit right here. Next track, Super Supreme. Now I love Kenny Parker because he made this beat, but he pretty much used the Like a Throttle beat from the Sex and Violence album from Boogie Down and shit. Like, he just basically just took some stuff out and just used that for Lady of Rage. Like, lyrically is good, but I just felt like it was just a bit too lazy in my opinion and stuff like that. But man, like, a lot of East Coast influence on this fucking album and shit. But yeah, man, that's Super Supreme. Next track we got is Some Shit, which was produced by DJ Premier. Now I love DJ Premier too. But yeah, this was the beat. I was not a fan of the beat he lays for Rage and shit. I felt like the beat could have definitely been a lot better and shit. Or I just felt like the chemistry was not really there for that particular beat. But lyrically it was pretty good. You can tell she was freestyling, going on top of the dome with this one and shit. Next track, Microphone Punkak featuring Mad One from the AOD, whom I mentioned like in the beginning of this fucking review and shit like that. This was yet another song that was produced by. This was yet another song that was Wait, actually no. I fucked up. I didn't mention AOD. I don't know actually who this Mad One from AOD is though. I think he's probably a Death Row affiliate, but this was another song produced by Primo, whom this is probably the better of the two beats he produced from him and shit like that. Yeah, she definitely went in on this track, but I don't know, it felt like something that I could have heard on Life After Death. It don't feel like a Lady of Rage track, in my opinion. I don't know if it was, I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely a very interesting track and shit like that. Like, it definitely felt like it could have been definitely on Life After Death or some shit like that. Um, Next track, Get With The Wickedness Flow Like That. This is the OG version. Just to share my same sentiments with the remix version, I don't really care for it like that. So, and the last track off this album, Confessions. Confessions, pretty dope way, nice way to end off the album. Just her, kind of like an introspective track. Just saying like the mistakes she made and shit like that, praying to the Lord and shit. So, pretty okay track. Nice way to end off this album. It pains me. It definitely pains me to say this, but this was not a good album. Really not a good album and shit. Like, the songs that were good, it could have been better. The songs that were bad and shit like that were bad. Lyrically, like I said, the album is dope. Lyrically, it's dope. But the biggest complaint I have is it felt more like an East Coast. It didn't feel like a Death Row album. It felt like an East Coast-ish album and shit like that. Because if you guys remember when Corrupt did the Corruption album in 98, he did like a West Coast side and an East Coast side and shit like that. Like, certain styles just can't like combine together. Like, the West Coast side was very good. I like the West Coast side, but the East Coast side was where it had its issues and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like this album kind of came out first and shit. It came out first and shit, but I feel like it was in this kind of like the same vein, pretty much. But yeah, man. I just wish the album could have been way better than what it was and shit. But at the same time, I don't necessarily blame Lady of Rage and shit like that. It was just mostly like the production choices, but yeah, man. And unfortunately, you guys, this was like her last album, because she pretty much left the music industry after the release of this album, because she focused more on acting. Because this same year she started in the Steve Harvey Show and stuff like that as Coretta, the funny sitcom from the 90s and shit, 90s early 2000s and shit like that. Yeah, man, she was Coretta. Then y'all should also know she was Baby D from Next Friday as well too. But it's not like she completely stopped rapping, because she did appear on a few songs, with Snoop on certain Snoop albums, like The Last Meal, Pay the Cost to Be the Boss. She also appeared on MC8's recent album, Which Way Is West, and shit like that. And yeah, man, like, she mostly just focuses on acting and just being herself and shit. She dropped a mixtape called VA to LA in 2005, which I did not hear, but yeah, and that's what I have to say about Lady of Rage. This is Necessary Roughness. I want to say that I think this album is kind of it's out of print. So if y'all can find this album, must have in your collection and shit like that. So, and I want to say this album is mostly, I would say it's recommended more like for a diehard Death Row fans and shit. Like, if you want to hear an album from like Lady of Rage, and shit, if you want to hear an album from Lady of Rage, like, this is probably like the closest. This is pretty much like the closest you would ever find and shit like that. Cause actually this album was reissued in 2012 when Wide Awake had ownership of Wide Awake gained ownership of Death Row Records and shit. But with the recent news of Hasbro owning Death Row Records and Ray J, out of all people, owning the rights to Suge Knight's life and shit, which kind of coincidental that I'm kind of doing this review. And shit like that, while all this mess is going on with Death Row Records. But better now than never. And just to answer everyone's questions in the comments before I end it off. Yeah, what's up, Christian? Yeah, you have a love-hate relationship with this album. Yeah, I can definitely agree with your sentiments. What's up, Q? Mr. Vincent Garzon. I'm not mixed. I'm just full African descent right here and shit like that. You're black and Latino. That's what's up. Sean Arvidge Gore. All right. Samuel Blount. Yeah, man. So that's basically what I have to say about this album. And this is Necessary Roughness again. Lady of Rage, released in 1997. Must have in your collection if you're a fan of Death Row Records. And yeah, and that's all of the time I have today for this review. Stay tuned for more. Peace. Click that subscribe button, like, share, do whatever.